let's get into it. So, right. So, what made me want to talk to you about this was I was recently watching a few speeches and I watched different people speak. And I saw a speech by Dr. Jordan Peterson. And I'm sure you've heard of him. He is a Canadian professor. And he was speaking about women and why women are so inclined to kind of be social justice warriors and why women. Do you know what a social justice warrior is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, right. So, and he was speaking about the reasons why women are inclined to do these things. And he was talking about the conscious versus the subconscious mind of a woman and how we have taken on our gender roles. And what he spoke about was how women are to be the distributors and men are the providers. So if you think of it in terms of a home, the man brings home the meat, the food, and so on, and the woman distributes it fairly amongst the family. You know, every child gets their share, and you know the mother and father get theirs. So this is kind of the reason why Jordan Peterson mentioned that women are more inclined to always want equality for everyone because of this natural kind of thing that we have in us, you know, our innate senses. So with that being said, my question to you is this. Jordan Peterson brought up a point about, did you hear about a movie called 50 Shades of Grey that came out?
I heard about it and refused to watch it, but yeah.
Same here. Me, like I said, as a Muslim woman, I don't need to see any of that. But I do know what it was about. And that was one of the best-selling books that came out. I think it was like probably I think it was the bestseller for years, correct?
I think so.
Right. So that movie came out in such a peculiar time because if you remember, during the time that this movie came out, there was a movement going on for sexual equality and men not being able to dominate women and tell them what to do. Yet there was this movie that came out in this book that was a bestseller, and women were flocking to the theaters, the cinemas, to go see this. And it was kind of like, wait, so the conscious mind of a woman says, I want equality. I don't want to be dominated. You can't tell me what to do. And you can't judge me. But the subconscious was reading this book about domination and you understand. We don't have to get too far into that. But so my question to you is, here I wrote it down. So what do you think about that movie being released in a time when we were having this kind of sexual equality movement and fairness and men not dominating women? What do you think about the mind of a woman when it comes to things like that? When you see that we say one thing, but we desire and flock to the other?
Well, and I kind of speak about this on my channel, the war in women between what we're taught and what our nature is. Because we're taught this sort of feminist, what I call a gynocrat meaning ruled by women. This sort of gynocratic thinking where we're supposed to be on exact equal footing with men and to a certain degree almost superior to them. Men can't tell us anything. They don't know anything. We're, the same. But then it battles with our nature because we know we're not the same. And we're not the same because masculinity actually inherently holds authority and femininity does not. We are naturally submitted underneath that. We don't have a natural authority. Women have natural authority over like children, whatever. If we're raising children, then yes, we have enough.
Let's give it up for Ameera, y'all. Ameera.
Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you guys can hear me good. Let me know if there's any audio issues so we can take care of those right in the beginning. Thank you, JR, for the welcome. I appreciate that so much. And I want to say welcome to Larry, welcome Barry, Larry and Barry, welcome Larry and Barry, welcome Heru, welcome Brittany, and hold on, let me get down. Welcome Brittany, welcome Trivalia, welcome Cora. Hi, Cora. And EFT42. Welcome. There's a few more, but I can't get to those all the way because it's all the way back in the beginning. So thank you guys for joining us on our normal Sunday meetings. This time, well, as you all know, we like to start the week off on a good foot. This is what we do here. And you all saw the title. So this is going to be a rather controversial topic, and it might be a topic that gets some people upset. And I don't want any of the men who hear this to feel like I'm trying to blame you in any way for anything. We have to remember when we talk about men, we're talking about in general. We're talking about your father, your grandfather, not just you. We're talking about your neighbor, the people you know at work, your coworkers. This is all of us as a community, all of us as a nation that I'm seeing. So please do not take personal offense. And if you do, well, that's just, you're going to have to deal with that because there's things in life that we have to deal with. So welcome, Jojo. Welcome, Mr. Musa. Welcome, Bruman. Welcome. Okay. So this topic is very much a topic that is that weighs heavy on the shoulders. And I don't want to carry this load by myself. So I would like someone who is, rather strong, a good, strong woman to join me for this. Please welcome Riva. I keep calling you Riva, but Riva. Hi, Riva.
Yeah,
thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it's Riva, however you want to pronounce it, however you're comfortable, but it is Riva, like a river.
What does the name mean? Is there any particular meaning?
Literally like the River Jordan. So my real name is Jordan. Those people who know me intimately know that, but River as in the River Jordan. I was actually given that name from one of my teachers, my spiritual teacher, I would say. And it just stuck. It just stuck, and it's been Riva ever since.
It's a great name. I like it. But I do like calling you Riva because Riva it rolls better off the tongue.
I will take it.
Wonderful. Okay. So you know the topic that we need to speak about today. So are you prepared to speak about this topic? And do you have any concerns about it?
I don't. No, I don't have any concerns about the topic. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, this can be, a little touchy. But at the same time, I feel like as soon as I saw the topic, I immediately assumed where you would be coming from. And I kind of caught it. And I was like, okay, I see how this conversation is going to go. And I see where it can
devolve into.
Yes. Correct.
For lack of a better word.
For lack of better words, yes.
So here we go. Men have created the hell that they live in. No matter how much we want to speak about women and what women in today's society are doing wrong, modern society, we all know, has fallen in so many ways. And this is not just one community. This is all communities have been going downhill. So we speak of it in the sense of a Western society. The Western society has promoted this. And when I say Western society, I mean the people in charge have allowed the inmates or the prisoners to basically run the asylum or the jail. So this is what's happening. And I hate to say that we women, that we need to be under an authority. We do need to be under that. And you may not agree with it, but this is how I feel. This is how I think. I'm interested to hear what you think about that. Sorry. I'm interested to hear what you think about that. But one second. Mm-hmm. Us as a nation, the people who have the power, who have had the power historically, men, this did not begin last year, when Donald Trump was president or whenever it was. This did not begin then. This has been an ongoing process, a slow process that has recently sped up to warp speed. If you know, during the times of the feminist push, the feminism, the birth of feminism, or the death of our nation, as I call it, the beginning of that. If you know, back then, we had men that were making the laws that protected women. Even today, we have men that make the laws about women's bodies. That's what they like to say, but I don't see it that way. But they see it like the abortion argument, that men are making the laws for that, and men are the ones who are in charge of that. So what do you think, and what are your ideas about the beginning of feminism and who allowed this to happen? And I guess you can start there. I will add on later, but you can start there.
So I want to go back to the first thing that you said about women needing the leadership of a man. I completely agree with you on that sentiment. And I find it so refreshing when I see a woman who is divinely feminine, obviously super connected to their spirituality. I can feel it, I can tell, but also that is able to say things without fear. And it's become this narrative that, oh, we don't need a man, like, oh, we don't need a man. We can do it. We're good. We can do it, everything by ourselves. And a lot of times it's women who are condoning this behavior with each other, right? And it's completely untrue. I mean, how can we reproduce without our man? How can we feel, protected? And especially when it comes to leadership and being led, I feel like it's necessary because of the fact that us as women, we lead so strongly with our hearts and so strongly with emotion that sometimes your logic is blocked. So I think it's essential when men can just come and, like women can be literally having a conversation and the man can just walk in to the conversation and say, no, it's this. And the conversation is over because his logic is so easy and clear. He's not in the feelings and the emotions, and he's going to be direct, and it may hurt your feelings. It may not be something that feels good to you, but at the end of the day, he's able to decipher firmly, whereas women lead with emotion. And so on that, I completely agree with you. And when it does come to the topic of men making laws for women's bodies, actually, before we get there, when it comes to women, when men created the hell that we live in right now, and men allowing it to basically be out of control, I feel like there has been this push with women in this, like you said, this new modern feminist era. And again, it's leaving women to their own demise is a better way to say it. You're all pushing for this narrative. You're all pushing to be equal. You're all pushing to be the same. I want the same. I want the same. I want this. But at the same token, I actually just reacted to a video like this on my channel.
Don't get into your channel yet, because
okay,
I want to lead into that. But continue with your point without mentioning your channel.
Okay, I'm sorry. But there was something that was said where now it's the same treatment that women are getting when it comes to authority, when it comes to being dragged around in the streets by authority and stuff like that, because of the fact that now you're not seen as like this soft feminine person or this inferior being. Now, since you can do all by yourself, now we're going to treat you the same exact way that we're treating the men in our societies as well. So you in fighting to be equal, it's changed the narrative of how people see and view women. I want to know what you feel about that.
I understand what you're saying. My vision is this. Men, this world would not be possible had it not been for men. Correct. That is what I'm trying to tell you. This would not be possible without men's cooperation and failure to halt it, to stand up, to not be afraid of being socially murdered, essentially. Because right now what we have is cancellations and all of this, and a lot of people are afraid to say things, and I see that men men are very powerful people. Like, this is a problem. We don't see it here. In America, we don't see the power of men because men cannot do what they naturally do here. They can't. And part of that is kind of good, I understand, because, you know, power does need to be controlled at a certain point. But that shouldn't be up to society to control them. I think that they should be controlled through different forces. But that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother topic. I do want to get into your channel, however. I have watched a few of your videos. More recently, I have seen that you have presented a few interviews from my Muslim sister, Dr. Shirazad Ali. And I have to tell you, I had never seen those interviews. They were very old. I don't know did you find some VHS tapes and just like, where did you find that? What library did you have to dust off to get those videos, that interview?
So it's so funny that you asked that because I literally was in the I don't even know what to call it, but like just, you know, on those evenings when you're kind of like scrolling through like, you know, YouTube and stuff like that, and you're literally just deciphering through things. I don't know, you know, that's how kind of I am. I like knowledge. I like to understand things. I like to hear, you know, teachings. And I was just kind of going through, and to be honest with you, I first heard of her through a Kevin Samuels video. It's the first time I ever heard of her. And I was doing, again, like reactions, and I heard him say it again, and something just rang true because he was drawing reference to the type of woman that she was in her mind. And I was like, I need to find this woman because I want to hear for myself what she has to say. And so I found 2 videos initially. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, I can't believe there was a woman who was speaking so strongly about this.
And just so I can gear you in a certain direction. Don't you see that the things that this sister was saying before, now she was speaking back in, I believe, the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Yes.
Now, isn't it amazing how the things that she's saying have been not only held true till today, but they're also magnified and multiplied. And today is, you know, what she was dealing with back then is nothing compared to what we have now. Her words served almost no purpose to the communities at large because it's only gotten worse in America. So what do you think about that?
You literally took the words right out of my mouth because that's exactly what I was going to say. I was astonished at the fact that literally the same arguments that she was having, she was literally begging and pleading people to get it together. And it literally, you could tell, fell on a lot of deaf ears because society is I mean, the women that she was speaking to at that time don't even hold a candle to the women that are doing the things that they're doing right now. It's like extremely so I was shocked. I was genuinely shocked that there was even someone speaking like that at that time. And I could imagine how she felt carrying that burden alone by herself in that time as well.
Then no one could have predicted twerking. No one could have predicted Instagram and what we have now. No one saw this coming. Like, no one thought it could get any worse than what it was back then. But and that kind of worries me for the future because I think if this is what we have now and the people in the 90s never expected what we have now, what is going to happen in the future that we don't expect unless we stop this, unless society takes a full turnaround? There is a great reset coming, but that has nothing to do. Well, it does have something to do, but I don't want to go into that topic because that's not what we're talking about today. Ameera, stay on topic. Okay. So this is what I want to tell you. I want to tell you this. I want men to not take accountability, but I want men to kind of see what I see and see what we're trying to see right now here in this video. I want men to see that this is something that could have been controlled and it could have been dealt with a long time ago had men not been afraid to take a stand, had men not sat down and for the sake of chivalry or whatever it was that made men say, you know, let the women have it. They shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have done it. And I want men to see today the errors of the past. And I think that this is one of the things that we need to pay attention to. Had the men up before not let this happen, had they had stopped things before it got too bad, we wouldn't have it now. Because now it's almost like a snowball, a snowball. It's gotten too big to stop. Now it's almost like I keep on saying that the only way to stop this is for something like war, famine, or poverty to happen for things to change. A lot of people disagree with me there. Riva, I'm going to tell you, I believe that in order to change the society that we have now, in order to have women go back to what women were before, and to be grateful for the men that they have, and to appreciate men and society in general, we must have something happen that will kind of scare people back to place, a shock, right? Because right now, what we are doing, Riva, what you are doing on your channel, what Lapeef Show is doing, what Kevin's saying, this is, all of the MGTOW guys, all of this will not change much. We'll be lucky if we change 5% of the people that are listening. But that's only because there has to be something that's going to change a person's lifestyle, their wallet, their, you have to be scared into place. So with that being said, I want you to speak a little bit about you and what is your mission for your channel? What are you trying to do, and what are you mostly focused on? Because we didn't get a chance to talk about that on the Lapeef Network. So, I mean, on the other, this is a Lapeef Network, but the other one, because you joined the panel. So what about you? Can you give me a moment to speak about you?
Absolutely. And you're making me so emotional, Ameera.
I tend to do that to people.
I'm a very, very sensitive woman, and I'm very sensitive to energy as well. So I know how to feel and communicate, but communicate effectively. But I'm very heart driven. But before we do speak about my channel, I do have a question based off of the things that you just said really quick. So you did say that you feel that men should have taken a stand and they should have changed things before the snowball. And just out of my curiosity, how do you feel that men could have behaved or act differently to change the state of society right now?
Not right now, because right now I think it's gone too far. If you're talking about back then, there are many things that could have been done. There are many laws that should not have been passed. There are many, think about mostly in feminism, they wanted the laws to be changed. They wanted the equal opportunity in work and so on. There's nothing wrong with having equality in the work. If you're doing the same exact work, you should get the same exact pay. There's nothing wrong with that. But making these quotas and forcing women into the workforce when, and another thing is God, people don't like when I talk about it, but since you asked me, JR, she asked me, okay, so please, I don't do anything after this. This is a question posed to me, so I didn't bring this up on my own. The abortion, the whole abortion argument, I think that men should have stood firm in saying no, because part of the sexual liberation that caused the problems that we have now were kind of born in that era of birth control, when birth control was first released. Nothing wrong with birth control, of course. Well, for some people, I don't believe in it, but a lot of people, if you're having relations with people and you're having boyfriends, I guess it is kind of necessary. But when you talk about abortion, I think that none of those things should have been allowed, because that opened up a whole door of irresponsibility and unaccountability for women. When women get relieved of every single responsibility or accountability out there, when we are relieved of all of that, we get put back into kind of this childlike state where even if we do mess up, everything can be fixed. We shouldn't be fixing a lot of these issues. We should let people live with those issues. Part of the welfare state, the laws that were changed regarding women and the men in the home and welfare, those things should have never happened as well. If you wanted the men, but some people say this was an agenda. They say that it was an agenda, but now look where it's gotten us. The point is, these things could have been prevented, or at least slowed down. And part of that, like I said, the laws for the sexual liberation, the laws of the workforce, the laws regarding, what was the last one? Oh yeah, welfare. All of these things could have been prevented. And I just think that men went along with it because they didn't want to see unhappy women. But now we have an abundance of unhappy women. They never saw this coming. What do you think, Eva?
I think that I mean, yeah, there's a lot of unhappy women pretending to be happy right now. That's the state of our society. They pretend like, oh yeah, I'm good, I'm great, I don't need it, I'm fine, and they're really depressed, unhappy. Hence the reason why a lot of women are overweight as well, because instead of feeding, they're trying to fill that void, and they're filling it with food, with different kind of pleasures that are unhealthy for your mind as well. So I do completely agree with your sentiments, and I definitely agree with your point on the lack of accountability, because the emphasis has changed so drastically. Like now no one even talks about like the fact that it's possible that you can get different diseases if you're intimate with a lot of different partners. No one talks about the spiritual effects that it will definitely have on you that will not go away so easily that you think. No one talks about all of these things. Now it's just like, oh well, getting pregnant or having a baby is completely the least because there's something that we can do about that situation. So I definitely agree when it comes to the accountability factor. And piggybacking off of what you did say of the situation where they could have stopped it or changed it, I agree to an extent. I just agree that it was set up in a way to trick the mindset of a woman purposely, so that we would be here where we are right now. I just think that there's people like like yourself, like myself, like certain like-minded beings that are just fighting for that change, because we see we're afraid of what's going to happen to the children of our futures.
Very afraid.
We're making a stand that's saying, hey, like, ladies, you don't have to be this way. You don't have to portray yourself this way. You don't have to act in this manner, because there's other people out here that are like, hey, we're not cool with it either.
That's true. I want to say thank you to the super chat. Thank you, Technological Chaos. It says almost in 5,000 years plus year history, all innovations and solutions from any civilizations come from crisis events rather than environments of stability. Crisis creates incentive to change behaviors versus stability environments. Gosh, my English is so good. I read that without any mess-ups. I think my English is so good because that super chat was quite
intellectual.
Right.
Yeah.
And I actually understood what I was reading. Can you believe it? Oh. I'm step by step reader, step by step. Reading a dictionary did something for me. Okay, so I do agree with that, and that's kind of goes back to the saying where they say, "What? How does it go? Hard times create strong men create good times, and good times creates weak men, and so on and so forth, something like that." You understand? And that is true, and that's why they say typically the end of days or the time when society breaks is when everyone is fat and greedy. When everyone is fat and comfortable, that's when things come to a breaking point. And everyone wants to live like America, and that's a whole nother conversation. Let's get back again. So basically, yes, what you were saying, Riva, I want to say I agree with you quite a bit. And yes, I do know that there was an agenda to destroy this nation, because there has been an over successful abundance. Is that a word? The abundance of success here in this country is quite devastating for other countries. A lot of people get jealous. A lot of nations are jealous of America's success. And a lot of people have been fighting to try to bring America down so that their nations could rise, because they don't like that America is the world police, that America dominates economically. They don't like any of it. And America also dominates culture. So seeing
right.
America...
I said right. They dominate culture, correct.
Precisely. And you see, the whole world wants to imitate American culture. And when we have this culture that we have going on now, this is a very bad thing, because this doesn't have to do solely with America. Because you might ask yourself, what does a Middle Eastern girl care about this? This has nothing to do with her. Oh, it does. It really does. Because remember, I live in this country too. And one day I'm going to have little cubs. I'm going to have my children out, and they're going to have to pick from what's available here. So this is important to me as well. I have to care about my future children and what they're going to have to deal with, what they're going to have to look for in a mate in the future. And what I see right now, I don't see myself approving of any of the women out there. I really don't. I don't see myself. I'm going to tell my son, well, looks like you're just going to have to die single, son. I'm sorry, but so, right. So basically, I want to tell you, yes, I want men to take accountability, not accountability. Like I said, they cannot change what happened right now. Right now, I think it's too late. But what they can do is look back on what the men of the past did and recognize where they went wrong. They recognize that men were weak. The men were weak. So society turned into this gynocracy, the word that Crimson Cure used before we started here.
Yes.
Gynocracy. So what do you think? And I'm going to make this quick because I want us to take some calls. Are you open to having calls?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to open this up to you. What do you think about the gynocracy that we live in today as a woman? Because you benefit most from this gynocracy, whether you know it or not. Mm-hmm. What do you think about it? And do you think that there is anything that we can do to, as women, change the gynocracy without looking like women haters? Because at this point, I look like a woman hater because I say, yeah, I have a lot of strong opinions, but what do you think?
So, I know I keep like pulling back and forth, but you know, you asked me a question about like my goal for my channel, right, on River TV, mm-hmm. And genuinely, I saw videos of Kevin Samuels. Is how it all started, right? I saw videos of Kevin Samuels speaking.
That's how it all starts.
Right. It usually starts with Kevin. It usually begins with Kevin. And that's why I say he's so essential for this time. And it's proven over and over to me again. But I saw some videos on his channel, and I was actually watching them again with my spiritual teacher, and like we're watching them, and I'm like, wow, like I've never heard somebody on such a big platform say these things that I feel or that I think. And I was generally just watching, and then I started to just kind of give my opinion, and then it became, you know, using your reference as a snowball effect, it became something that just, you know, a lot of people wanted to hear more of what I had to say, and then all these videos started coming up, and then I realized, because I was a hairstylist for 10 years, right? I'm still a hairstylist, but over 10 years I've been doing hair, right? And a lot of my clientele are women who are married to high value men. So I know how they relay themselves, and I know how different it is than, you know, other women relay themselves. And I started to see certain things that they, you know, have precedence in their life, that this is so important, where other people think, you know, things are different. And I've always had certain conversations about relationships and about family structure with people. I've always been very opinionated and voiced my opinion. And then it dawned on me one day as I'm, you know, offering, you know, my opinion, that, wow, this is a torch. This is a torch to set the standard. This is a torch where you pick it up and you're saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to speak on these things because of the fact that I care so much about our culture. I care so much about, like you said, society, not just here, because what's going on here is literally influencing the world at high numbers. Mm-hmm. And I also I really, really strongly wanted other women to feel that they don't have to follow the guidelines of what the society is placing on you. Oh, we need a Birkin bag. Oh, he needs to have all this money to take care of me. Oh, if he can't do this, he's not good enough. He's not this. Because there's so many other things to be valued. And as well as the same thing that you were saying about like society, right? Like everything that's going on right now is just absolutely crazy. You know, you look on the news and you see, you know, young women who are literally being kidnapped, and it's not even at nighttime anymore. Like it's literally like broad daylight.
It's not even nighttime.
It's not even nighttime. Like literally, like, you know, and it's true. You know, I don't know if you heard about the thing that happened with that lady on the train.
There was a lady who was great. Yeah.
Yeah, with literally everyone sitting there watching, because we have this society that just picks up their phone and records it, and then they go on with their day because our society is so desensitized. So I thought it was super important, and I still think it's so important. And I love, platforms like Lapeef and you, of course, and people who are going to stand up and say, no, we don't have to do this. Come this way, and let's change the effect that society is going to have later on.
Come to the good side. There's so much better. Right. There's so much better out here. I want to welcome Bihan. Welcome, Bihan.
Hi.
Good evening. It's good to be back. So we just have to look at society today. It's crazy. I would say look at the speech that John F. Kennedy gave back a long time ago about dark people and dark forces in our shadow government, and then just notice how that ties in. Also, just look into.
Uh-oh. I swear I didn't do it. It wasn't me.
Yeah, it looks like we lost him.
Yeah, but I wanted to tell you this. What you were just talking about right now, and speaking about how women are so needy of the men today. And it's almost like when you ask it, this is why Kevin Samuels' content is so triggering, is because women have never been asked, well, what are you going to bring? What do you give? It's always been the conversation of, I need, you must provide. And this is why I say men, I wish men would stand up. I wish that men would not be so afraid to be canceled, would not be so afraid to just give a huge middle finger to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and this is the reason why I tell you, we wouldn't be in this position if it weren't for them. I brought this up with my husband. I'm going to tell you what my husband said.
Okay.
I told my husband, I believe it was on Friday night. So my husband on Friday nights, he just wants to relax. He doesn't even want to hear my voice half the time. but I forced him to hear me because I held him down and I put tea in his mouth and I was like, here, honey, drink. Now I want to talk to you really quick. Right. So I asked him, I said, honey, when you look outside, what do you see? And, what do you see with relationships of Americans? And he told me, he said, I just see a lot of chaos. I see that people don't know what position they're in. People don't know where they want to be. Nobody wants to know if they want to be a woman or a man or who knows. And then I asked him, I said, who created this? Right? And I said, do you think that men are responsible for this? And then he said partially, because he said that even if men did not approve, that the women would have still found a way to do it. That's what he said. And I completely disagreed, because I said, I don't agree. I tell him I believe that men allowed it to happen. That's the only reason why it happened. But he says that even if the men would have tried to resist, that women would have rebelled in another form or another. That it would have just been, you remember back when feminism started, like I said, the death of our nation. When feminism started, that women were in the streets with picket signs and burning their lingerie and bras. And do you remember? And he says that it would have just been that for centuries. I mean, what do you think?
I'm going to tell you the reason why I agree with him. The reason why I agree with him is because women vastly outnumber men, right? So with that being said, I completely agree with the fact that, yes, they would have made waves, made names, been in the street again, burning stuff down and doing all of these things, because as women, especially as women who need to be heard, a woman who needs to be heard, her voice is going to be heard. It doesn't matter who anybody feels about it, what anybody.
Why don't we have that in the Middle East? We don't have that in the Middle East. Even if a woman wants to be heard, she will be silenced.
Because of culture, but in our society, it is nurturing the culture that a woman is the most important. A woman can say what she wants, what she doesn't want, and the man has definitely been silenced. And I feel like there's men that have tried to fight against it and have tried, but like you said, cancel culture has become so prominent. I mean, you can't say anything. You literally can't say anything these days without everyone literally attacking you, especially with how our news is over here. Is like, again, where one person can say one thing and literally that's not even what they said, But everyone is going to run with that narrative until everyone now looks at you like you're a crazy person and you'd never said it. So that's why I agree to what he said.
Did you grow up and yes, I'm offended that you agree with him and not me, but
I'm sorry. I love you.
Either way, I'll let you say. Either way, I wanted to ask you, how did you grow up? Did you grow up with your mother and father, or did you grow up in a single parent home?
So I grew up a little bit, I believe it was from birth to 7 years old in a single parent home. And then my mother met my stepfather, and I grew up in a 2-parent home all the way until, I grew up. So
I'm curious because usually women don't have the way that you think. A lot of women don't think the way that you and I think. Mm-hmm. And Cora, the way that Cora thinks too.
Well, a lot of people do not think the way that I think, even within my family. So I feel I've always been different. I've always had a certain mindset. I'm not really sure as to where it initially stemmed from. However, I did grow up in a family where my mother always raised us to respect the man, right? So we always have been taught, like, okay, you're going to serve him first. You're going to do this. Traditionally in my family, that's how it was. I mean, my grandmother is one of the women that I genuinely admire with the way that I saw her treat my grandfather, But I also grew up in a family, which I think my mom might be watching, and I don't want to expose us too much, but I'm going to be honest that I grew up in a family that was mostly women, right? So I felt, I would see other people, and there was always mommy and daddy, or like husband and wife, and I grew up and I saw the effects of certain things from society as well, and me deeming that like, hey, that's kind of not the norm, or hey, that's kind of not, you know what I'm saying? And I always have a thing in my head that I always want to figure out why, and I realize that a lot of the situations come from the mindset.
I'm going to have a more spiritual conversation with you in a minute, but first we have to welcome Cora. Hi, Cora.
Hi, Cora.
Hi, Ameera. Hi, Riva.
Hi.
Thank you all for having me on. Just want to give honor to Lapeef for hosting this network, and give honor to you two for having this conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I did want to bring up a point, if I can, about, based on the Bible tells us in Timothy that it was not Adam who was deceived, talking about eating the fruit off of the tree of knowledge, but it was Eve who was deceived. And I think going back to that, it goes to show you that women are very emotional. And then when men cave into that emotion, or as River was saying, like just being illogical sometimes, just going off the emotions and being illogical, men cannot cave even the slightest to that. And I agree with Ameera's husband. Men gave a little bit, and we tried to take not me, because I'm not a feminist, but yeah. Women in general, I guess I have to say we tried to they gave us an inch, we tried to take a mile, and so it's like we're just never satisfied. But yeah, I just feel like men can't even just give us a little bit, as far as trying to have all these different freedoms. And so what do you all think about that?
Cora, I wanted to ask you, I understand you're addressing this, and you're saying that men gave a little bit, but don't you see that things are kind of at a breaking point right now, that it's almost like the snowball has gotten too large to stop it? So let's say something does happen in the future. Let's say there is a reset of sort. Do you think that it would be better if we did it my way? Like, my way is to rescind, I think that's the word, to take back all of the laws that we have right now of the family court, of the welfare state, the labor, the job laws. All of these things need to be rescinded, and also abortion, the sexual liberation, because sexual liberation cannot exist in a welfare state, or it shouldn't, rather. It shouldn't exist in a welfare state. You should only have one or the other, because of what we see today. So what do you think, Cora?
I absolutely agree with that. And I feel that if we do revert back to that, women will see that we do need men. And I think just having those freedoms or that so-called liberation, when really it's really hurting and harming women more so than it is liberating us. But yeah, I think that would be the only way. And I know you don't want to get too much into it, but I don't know if I call it a reset. That's what you call it. But I do believe something is coming eventually, because it's just like, it's basically just going downhill. It's like more of an avalanche than a snowball, in my opinion, at this point.
I agree. And I know what you mean by reset. I don't like calling it a reset, but that's like the best word that I can find right now, because when we say reset, it can also imply something else, like a great reset, which I don't know if you know what I'm talking about the great reset, but yeah.
Yes, I kind of do a little bit.
Thank you, but we shouldn't. I don't want us to go into that conversation, because then JR is going to start pulling his beard again. So, Reva, what do you think about what Cora has to say?
Well, first of all, I love the fact that Cora has come here to voice her opinion. I think this is all a part of doing the work, and standing for the betterment of our families, right? And for society. So I love that, absolutely. As well as, something that she said about the Bible and about, it was Eve that took the fall, or, and I can understand. Okay, so this is a point that stuck out to me, is that the only time that I personally feel a woman is going to be easy to listen to, and easy to direct people in the right manner, is if she leads with humility. Because humility covers everything. When you are humble, you're able to hear, you're able to give correct wisdom. Your ego is not in the way, so you're not speaking of a place of arrogance or conflict. When you're humble, you're able to really see things for what they truly are and logically speak and say things. So I completely agree with her in that sentiment. And I just feel, like you said, things have been so far gone. It's like you said, if we can even just, speak to a couple of people and hopefully just change certain mindsets, we change, at least, a marriage or a relationship, a household change, then that, goes to the community, which goes to the city, which goes to the state, which goes to the country, which goes to, around the globe. So, it's just trying to be people who are standing firm, because this is a time that it's necessary for people to step up and speak and stand firm and use their voice and say things and command change. And maybe it's not going to be heard globally and the widespread, because we look like, pick-me's, and we look like, women haters, like we hate ourselves, when in actuality, no, we're not the ones who hate you. The people who are lying to you and convincing you the opposite way are the people who hate you and want you to be by yourself and want you to be miserable and alone.
Can I just say one more point? I don't want to stay on here too long, because I know you have to do this, but so number one, of course, it starts at home and teaching and rearing the children, of course. But I haven't said this before, but I am a high school teacher. Wow. And yeah, so I try to get little nuggets in, because the culture of high school today is so liberal, but I try to get these little nuggets into my students, especially my female students. I teach in a really rough area, actually the area that I was raised in most of my childhood. And so just trying to get these little nuggets in, especially if they ask me about a relationship, like, oh, are you married? Are you this or that? I don't necessarily tell them, but I do say, well, ask them, well, what if you get married? What about this or that? And they just have this warped perception of marriage and relationships. I had a female student tell me that she wants to have a child one day, but she's definitely not going to be, she's not going to be married when she has it, because she knows the hurt of having, her parents leave her and all this stuff. And I said, well, you're bringing your child into a deficit already. did you ever think about your child having that mindset? So maybe instead of having that mindset, have the mindset, what can I do differently to get married and to be in a committed marriage and a good marriage, so I can have a child and can bring them into a loving, nurturing home. So just little nuggets like that without trying to cross the line and, things get out of hand and things like that. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that point up.
Well, Cora, on behalf of, all the parents at whatever high school that is that you teach at, I don't know if you hear it, but I definitely want to say thank you so much for that, because, kids go to school and they're trusted in the hands of people for hours at a time. And, there's a lot of people still pushing a certain narrative, even when your kids are away from you. And the fact that you are, definitely not getting paid enough to be able to do that and to be able to speak those things, and that you're taking that as a responsibility on yourself to say those things and to impart good things into these children, I think is very, very, very admirable.
That's what service to the community.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cora, for joining us.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Now, I wanted to bring up the super chat. The super chat says, thank you, Mr. Walt Musher. It says, will China define masculinity with its new ban on anti-CC men? And I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means. Can you explain?
Yeah. Will China define masculinity with its new ban on, I guess, maybe homosexual men, is what he's trying to say.
Oh, I see.
So I guess they're banning that over there in their society.
So, sorry. I want to speak about that really quickly, because after that, I do need to grill you on spirituality, because I'm sensing something and it's just coming up right now, and my radar is like,
good.
Okay. But before we'll address him. Hi, Wolf. Give me 1 minute, Wolf. I have to get on my soapbox, as Anton says. I need my soapbox planted. So, right. China defining masculinity. When we see the American Army, have you seen the new commercials for the? Have you seen the new commercials for the Army? How they have you're not seeing them?
Mm-mm.
So they have this commercial. It's a cartoon, for crying out loud. A cartoon. Mm-hmm. And it's this girl, and she has these 2 mommies. She was brought up with 2 mommies, okay? And so she's basically saying, pick me to go into the Army, because a girl like me that was brought up with 2 mommies who believes in woman empowerment is exactly what the Army needs. Yeah. And then the next advertisement for the Army was, I believe, another homosexual man speaking about how the Army is very accepting of non-binaryism and all genders and all of this. And this is the type of Army that America is going to have now. So when you think about our Army, that's going to have a bunch of girls that grew up with 2 mommies and who are so sensitive about those issues, along with a man that is, and then we have Chinese Army that is all men that have grown up strong, tough. They don't have this kind of nonsense going on in their mind where they're confused about girls and boys and non-binary and all of this. What do you think about America in the future when we have this being promoted and pushed into our Army, which Wolf here, hi Wolf, he is, are you currently serving?
This is why I don't like to get too deep into that, because when you're people in the military, we're not actually allowed to weigh in on too many opinions, especially publicly. So I keep it toned down. But I can give you some details there. China, and I came in a good time, China did ban the representation of what they would call sissy men on television. I'm pretty sure a big part of that is because they've seen what's been happening over here, and they're like, you know what? We don't want to travel that path. Now, as for the military recruitment commercials, yes. So something has definitely gone off the tracks. Even people that This is one of those things where a lot of people are aggravated and they don't understand why, because it's hitting something way deeper than what they understand. And what's going on is when you watch those ads, because that was just the ad that was on the news. There was like 5 of those commercials that you can still go to YouTube and watch and be like, what does this have to do with anything? Because it's not about the purpose of a nation's military is to protect the nation, is to win wars.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start getting onto municipal issues, it's like this does not compute. So on some sort of a base level, especially being raised in the United States and being the descendants of rebellious colonists or someone that took an oath to become a United States, a vow to become a United States citizen, they're wanting to take on that persona of a rebellious colonist. This is what we want to do.
So what do you think about that? Like, don't you think that that's a part of another agenda to make America and her people weak worldwide, to have our nation? That's why I say men, this would not be allowed. All of these things would not be happening if it weren't for men allowing and permitting these things to happen.
Oh, yes, to some degree. And like you were talking about single parenting earlier, I think something came up there. To some degree, yes, there's a lack of masculine strength, but also men have shot themselves in their own foot using the court system. So anytime that there's a man and a woman, a married couple, a divorced couple going to the courts, everybody knows that the courts are going to favor the females. In most situations, the court naturally favors the female, especially when it comes to a divorce of any situation. I had a female lawyer. She even told me in California, look, you're in California. Chances are things are not going to go well for you simply because they skew towards the female.
Yep.
And part of that is men, a lot of well-intentioned good men, they have a desire to protect females. They have a desire to protect daughters. That's just their programming. So when they see a man and a woman in the court, naturally they tend to side with a woman, and this is when they've shot themselves in the foot. And these are the societal challenges that aren't talked about that much. But there was a court case in Illinois that went all the way to the Supreme Court, if I remember correctly, early 70s. It was an unmarried father, and he had a couple children with a woman. The woman passed away.
Yeah.
The state took the children away from him. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm the parent. I should be the parent here. I should hold on to my children. And the government's like, no, you're a man. You can't be raising children. And there's still several court systems around the United States that are having issues with that. I think it was Oregon. If there was the moment a divorce was filed, the father automatically lost all rights, and he had to go to court to win the rights.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So this is society trying to change and people not knowing the ramifications of that. And of course, like we've established, there's a lot of weak men that allowed this to happen and decided that they're just going to cave in to the constant nagging from the feminists. and it's done them no favors. And we're about to go through that. We're about to see how badly that has harmed us when you have rise of China, rise of Russia, and they are putting emphasis on masculinity, especially within their military.
Oh, yeah.
And the United States has taken several steps backwards.
Yes, I thank you, Wolf. Thank you so much. And you know what? You came right at the perfect time when the conversation was exactly what you needed to add. Thank you so much for joining us, Wolf.
Oh, happy to be here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Riva, I am not going to let you get away from this conversation. Really quickly, I have to really quickly. I need to ask you this. Yes. What is your spiritual background? What are you religious?
I am not.
But what? There's something. Don't make me pull it out. Just
I know. I am not religious, but I'm super connected. And I find that really funny that you asked me that. We literally need to come back and have a whole conversation about just that. But when it comes to spirituality, I was raised obviously Christian, right? I was raised Christian. I was Christian, basically my whole life. But there was always a certain connection I had, right? And even when it comes to like being, you know, in church and stuff like that, like people always assumed that I would grow up to be a pastor. People literally always thought that I was going to be a pastor because of the way that I would see things and feel things and speak to people and connect with people on a certain level, even as a child.
Wait, women can be pastors?
Yes. In the Christian church, women can be pastors, correct? Oh. But people always saw that for me, and even if you know, not necessarily the pastor and have my own church, they always thought that I would marry one, right? Okay. So that I would be, you know,
connected straight away, yeah.
Correct. And I actually went through a huge spiritual evolution. Went through a lot of research, went through a lot of like knowledge, and you know, listening to a lot of different things to kind of hear and see things and kind of figure out things for myself, not just because this was something that was given to me by my family and that's just traditionally what we do, but I've always had that thing of wanting more, right? And what happens is that I think that people are always searching for a connection with the source itself, right?
True.
People go through different avenues to be connected to that, to be able to stand firm with that and feel united with that, so they get more comfortable, right, within life. And everybody knows that when you have hope, you have more. When you have hope and faith, you have a, you know, they say that you live longer because of your hope and faith into something else. But I kind of broke away from all of the chains of any, you know, religion.
So just answer me. What do you believe? Just really quickly, because we have Definite G waiting for us. But just really quickly, what are your beliefs? Just really quickly.
So it's hard for me to say it really quickly because I think that it's a huge, broad conversation.
Okay.
But I believe that, you know, there's a source of creation itself. Okay. I think that men and women put it in a mindset to act like it's another person. Mm-hmm. But in actuality, I feel like it's something way deeper than that.
Thank you. We are going to actually have one-on-one, me and you, and we can speak more in depth about that. Welcome, Definite G.
Hi.
Oh, you're on mute. Hold on. You're on mute. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
How's it going?
Going good. Thank you. What do you think about the conversation? And do you think that you are responsible for the hell that we live in? I'm just joking. Or do you believe that men are responsible for the hell that we live in?
You are absolutely correct. It's because men are thinking with their little head too much instead of their big head. Because they think, you know, if I appease to women, if I become their Care Bear, if I just love all over them, oh, you know, that they, you know, women are going to like them a lot more. So what men have done, they've sacrificed their own self-respect and dignity again, to appease the woman. See, it's up to us that, you know, I'm a Christian. It's up to us. God made us the head of the household to lead the family. He did not give that responsibility to the woman. Yes. So he didn't even design the woman to lead in the first place. Only the man has that capability.
Yeah.
So with that being said, it falls on our shoulders to kind of clean this up. At the same time, we still, with that leadership, we got to enforce more discipline onto the women. We got to stand on our own 2 feet. We got to say, like, no, you're not going to do this, and then stand true to that.
Because women don't like to be disciplined today.
Yeah. At the same time, it's going to be a slow, because it has to start off with the man first. He has to come back to himself, and then we can start working towards the women. So, yeah.
I agree completely. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And that you brought up one thing that we hadn't talked about yet, was the men having that burden of leadership. Men do have that burden. And yes, it is a very hard thing, I'm sure, for men. I don't know how it feels because I'm not one. But when you have that burden, yes, everything that happens, good or bad, will be pretty much your responsibility. If things go well, you made it go well. If they go poorly, well, you made it go poorly. What do you think, Riva?
I I actually had a different question for him as well. So if you're saying, you know, as men standing up and disciplining the women, I'd love to know like your, you know, thought process as in like when you're dating now, like, because obviously like there's a lot of modern women out there, not necessarily a lot of traditional women out there. So how do you handle those situations when they're literally posed in front of you like day to day?
Well, we first have to, it really starts back onto the men first, because the reason why women, the modern women, aren't listening is because there are men that are still pandering. They're still giving them, you know, the fuel to keep going. So what we need to do, we need to bring back the value of masculinity first, so those men will stop pandering. Then what we need to do, we gotta choke the attention out of modern women to let them know that their values we're not paying attention to, and we're not going to force them. We're not going to grab them by their neck, but we're going to say we're not going to pander to you anymore until you. We're not going to pander to you at all. But the only time you're going to actually have that, you know, get our attention back is if you comply. That's the only way. You can only comply, then you can get us back. That's it.
And I agree with your sentiments completely, and the things that you're saying. But I'm asking a more like intimate question, as in like in your literal life, like what do you personally do when posed with these situations?
Well, I'm just one dude, so
That's where
yeah, I'm just one dude. Yeah. So what I do, one, I try to understand what is a man first, because with us boys, we have to identify what manhood is and then cultivate that. That's what we have to do. And then as we grow, then we can impart that wisdom onto anybody who is willing to listen, any man who's willing to listen. So yeah, I'm just one dude. I can show the example, but people will have to take it in order for it to work. So yeah.
But you shouldn't have that mentality of like, I'm just one guy, because like Riva said, it does begin just like it begins in the micro level. So you could have an impact on the people around you because people are looking at you. We don't live in a vacuum. Every time you are even outside, you have eyes on you, whether you know it or not.
Right.
So you doing that, it will change. You know, you do have an impact. So please don't feel that way. Like I'm just one guy. You have an impact.
Correct.
Hi, Ego.
Hey, what's going on?
Going good. Nice to see you again.
Yep, always good to talk to you.
Welcome. What do you think about the topic here? What do you think about you taking responsibility for all of the hell that we live in today? I'm just joking, but you understand.
Yeah, I mean, y'all absolutely right. I've always said that, and I think Definite G, he said he has my exact sentiment. The only thing I disagree with him on is that the mentality of, just like you said, where you think you're just one man, but the agency of men is masculinity is the ability to gather men and bring things to fruition. Like sometimes we feel like the mountain is way too high to cross, but it's really not, um and it's just like, anything that you learn, it's going to seem so damn hard when you initially look at it, but it's just like when you take that first step, you start to walk and then you start to run. So, my example is that even, now let's be real. In Black culture, we have a problem with fathers or men pretty much taking accountability for the woman within the group, because oftentimes, the hallmark of the community is, hey, don't judge, and judgment is the only thing that stops a lot of us from doing a lot of bullshit. So we do have to judge the woman within our family, and that's going to take, they always have pushback against something that they want to do in their mind, but it's like somebody around you knows what it is, and people, they just don't like that clash of opinions, right? But it's just like, outside of our culture, men have no problem saying what they,
Oh no.
Yeah, they don't. They have no problem. But within Black culture, it's like we make too many exceptions, just like you said, for what they say, and we're trying to. It's almost, I don't even want to say it's feminine. It's just like a softer approach to where we're trying to be liked at the same time.
Yeah.
We gotta.
And then okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I wanted to bring up what you had begun on was about the accountability factor, because accountability is one of the main things, if not the main thing, that changed our society. When I told you that women, everything that we do has a solution. It has a fix, because men have made the world so easy for us to the point where men made birth control. That was made by a man. Now,
Right.
think about this. When I say men have created the hell that we live in, men have created the majority of things in this world. Everything that we touch on a daily basis is created by a man. So you have created the life that we're living in right now, not you specifically, understand.
Right.
But men have created this, and men have been taking responsibility for women for centuries. And only now, when they said, okay, we don't take responsibility for you, but we give you the freedom to take responsibility for yourself. And if you mess up, we will fix every problem that you make,
Right.
including if you mess up and have a baby by someone who's not worthy of your egg, you will say, okay, we will abort the child for you. Abortion will be legal. Men have made it so. Men have said abortion will be legal.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
where is the accountability? Everything that we do as women has a safety net. But do men have the same safety net as we do?
Hell, hell no. If we fail, it's over. Like,
Right.
and I think legally, the problem is that legally, women are not allowed to fail anymore. You know what I'm saying? And then also socially now, because men have a more feminine or softer approach, they're not allowing them to like before. What we had like in the 80s was shame. You know what I'm saying? So there was the shame component, and then it was the legal aspect of no, we're not going to help you. But 30 years out, now we have more a welfare state to where we're giving out money. Like during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
if we didn't just give all of this, all this stimmy, then some of these chicks would have to run back to their families at the very least, or their ex or their ex-husband, and got the situation together.
How many women feel strong and independent because of men? How many women, Riva,
Right.
how many women feel so strong and independent and say, I do this on my own? And knowing that they have probably been in these situations where they needed a man to bail them out, and they've gotten bailed out. But
Right.
men, they don't get those bailouts. I have not seen, like I told you, 14% of cases in the family court. There's only 14% when men win in family court. 14%.
Right.
How terrible of numbers. And where do men get a safety net? If a
Yeah.
man goes to the welfare and asks for help, they'll laugh at him and tell him to go stand outside with a cup.
Well, it's another thing with pride with men, and which I think is another issue too. We tend to we don't want that help, even though it's available for us. And I think biologically, women are more accepting of the help, so they'll just take it. But I'm actually one of that 14%. I have custody of both of my kids willingly, and I play those family court games because I know what it's like to leave my kids in non-accountable females' hands. I'd rather create the
Wow.
structure. I'll create the structure, and then it'll revolve around that. You know what
You
I'm
are
saying?
one of the 14%. You are, wow.
And
But
going
That's
with
special.
Yeah, that means so much.
and this is from taking initiative in family court, and to go with the men to create the hell that they have. A lot of these men are afraid to go to family court and even get joint custody, which shields you from a lot of the child support, a lot of the alimony. If you strike first, which doesn't mean you have to destroy her, but you have to protect yourself by
Yeah.
striking first.
Be proactive.
Right, proactive, exactly what I mean. So
Yeah,
and going with
I thank you so much. Go ahead, Definite, and then Riva.
yeah, and even with Higo's point of like men, their ego get the best of them. That's kind of the reason why that women were able to slip through the cracks, is because of that reason. Since men don't want to defend themselves and they have that sense of pride, that kind of put us also in this predicament that we have today. So what we need to do, and we have to learn humility as men. We have to, because it's like what Reba said, it helps us to understand and have a proper perspective on certain things and certain matters. So we gotta put our egos aside, even though we do want to prove to the world that we can, conquer and slay the dragons. Sometimes we gotta ask for help. We gotta ask for backup. Hey, this dragon's big. Shooting laser beams out of his eyes. But we gotta ask for help. So yeah,
you're dragging me around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I did want to say is based off of what Higo Sway just said, and it's the point of standing firm, right? And I was asking Definite the question, and he was posing the things that should be done to change the narrative and things that should be done to change the ways that people go about things. And where I feel like he goes definitely understood exactly what I was asking is, like, personally, how are you going to make the mark? Because as we said, it does take you personally to stand up and say, and let's be honest, when we talk about like how the modern woman behaves and how she acts and how she operates, what is one of the biggest reasons why they are effective in the way that they are doing things and maneuvering is because they are still getting intimacy from men.
Validation.
Validation.
So starting there with being like, okay, no, like we're not attracted to that. We don't want that. That's when things will take a drastic change.
Welcome, Ray. Welcome in.
How you doing? How y'all doing?
The topic.
What's up, Ray?
How's everybody?
Good.
Well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I agree with the gentleman what they were saying about how men create their own hell, especially when it comes to the child support system. I too was in that system for 20 years. I paid out a total of $88,000 over. Yeah, so I didn't like to never ever be behind, but you're right. You have to get ahead of it. There was no real legit reason why the mothers of my kids had to really sue me, but you have to protect yourself. So what you have to do is you have to counter sue. I mean, that's what you have to do, because you have to get joint custody. Because child support is different in every state, but I know in Pennsylvania, if you do file jointly, that sometimes they do make the other person also pay child support. And then women also don't think about it. They'll be like, oh, so I might be paying too. So they'll be like, you know what, never mind, I don't want to do it. And then y'all can have an agreement to where you can both have an agreement to where, y'all can split the time. Like 1 week I'll have the kids, 1 week you'll have the kids, and then we'll just leave it after that. But you got to also keep your receipts and everything too, because that also can push you in the jail, because women also, they take little bit of things like that and can take it to the court system, and that can backfire against you.
So what do you think about the other topics that we were speaking about men, their responsibility of leadership, of being leaders, and how they can stand up against this? What Ego was saying was that men are just too nice, and they're wanting to be liked at the same time instead of just standing up and doing what's needed to be done. What do you think?
No, that I agree with. In our community, I think we try to play both sides. We want to stand up, but also we cater to our women too much, and that plays a role against us. Because if you think about other communities, let's say what men say goes. And
which one? I'm sorry, Ray, you cut out for a second. You said which community?
I say in our community, it's kind of we try to play both sides. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. We play both sides. So we want to put our foot down, but also we cater to our women. If you think about other communities of men, what they say go. They don't really care about how people's feelings are hurt or what goes. What they say goes. And that's how we got to be in our community. It's not that we're trying to be mean, but we got to take our community back, because right now our community is led by women. Even media, they're promoting that with our women taking the lead. But we also create this also as men. And in order for us to fix it, we have to take it back. Yeah. And then when we take it back, we start being leaders that we should be. because it starts with the man. I believe in the Bible, so you are head of household. It starts with you. So how your house is going to be led is going to fall on me.
Correct.
So if
I think that a huge thing that has spiraled out of control is this whole happy wife, happy life mindset.
Yes.
People have taken that and ran with it, and it's not ultimately true. Because ultimately, if the husband of the house is unhappy, your house is going to be in chaos.
If
right?
he's the provider, right? Yeah.
So you're doing everything to please a person who her emotions might be a little fleeting. You know, they might change every single day.
Yes.
And you have a lot of women who no matter what you can, and this is people in general, but we're talking about the women. You have a lot of women who literally cannot be pleased for whatever reason, for I don't know, trauma, for whatever the case may be, because they have not done the work on themselves and they've always been given everything. That you can have a good man who is literally willing and trying and standing there like, hey, I'm here with you, I'm working with you, I'm trying to grow with you. But if you leave that person, you're the bad person, because you're supposed to stay. Because as much as this is hurting you, you're supposed to be pleasing me, which
it doesn't matter, right?
Huge issue. And two, especially what you guys were talking about with the child support system and all of that, again, a lot of men I feel are afraid. That's why I'm glad that there's you two that have been through this and are talking about like the joint custody. But a lot of men are completely afraid to even jump into those waters because they know how vindictive a woman can be.
Well, not only that, it's the court system as well.
Correct.
Even if the woman isn't vindictive, the court system will be vindictive for her.
Correct.
Yeah, I think the thing is sometimes, and this is going with the topic, I think we end up raising the type of demons that will go and do some of these things. Like we have daughters and we do entirely too much for them instead of tasking them. You know what I'm saying? So technically, everybody in the family should have a solid, concise responsibility. So, like for instance, my daughter, this is one of the things, along with cleaning and doing certain. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Along with cleaning and doing certain things, she's tasked every day with an hour of reading to her little brother, either reading or art, and that's solid. And that's something that you have to explicitly say. You know what I'm saying? And listen, this is your job. So she grows into that skill of knowing this is what I have to do because my dad taught me. So and then when she gets to an adult, it's not uncommon for her to hear that from her husband and then go right into the role.
Well, another thing that I had spoken. Oh, go ahead, Reva. I'll go. You go, and then I'll go.
Okay, and I'm so glad you said that because, especially with how I grew up, right? Like we have a saying within our family that like the women raise the girls and they spoil the boys. So we have a completely opposite nature within our family culturally. Just being Caribbean, like literally, like the boys will be outside playing, and the moms are like, "Come get in the kitchen. Come here. Come find out what he wants. Come find out what so and so wants to drink." And it's literally giving you, like you said, responsibility. Like they teach wash your clothes, come clean, like it's teaching you that so that when you are growing and when you become of age and you're in a relationship, these things just come natural to you. You have all these feminine skills to operate in life. So I think that's super important.
That's the orderly way to do it. Because if you realize when women, think about children, right? They let the boy children play while the girl child is in training to be a wife. But when they get older, the boy child will be working most of the time while the girl child will still be at home and in a more relaxed position than the men. See, that's why we in our culture as well, most cultures do this. They let the boy run wild when they're young and they don't have to clean, cook, nothing. They just live because they know that when that boy gets older, his whole life from 18 on or maybe 16 on
together
is all work. So I wanted to speak on Ego's point. Ego, you were talking about your daughter, and I wanted to say this is the proper way to do it because I had mentioned in my last live stream. Now this might sound offensive, but I'm Ameera. Do not simp for your daughter. Do not simp for your
Exactly.
daughter. If you become your daughter's first simp, she will
Mhm.
expect that of every other man that she meets growing up.
Exactly.
Yes.
I know I hate that word, guys, but don't simp for her. Even though you love her very much, you have to recognize that you being a simp for her, she was going to expect that, and you're going to create the hell that you live in.
Exactly.
Again.
Exactly.
That's
Again,
And
true.
what I'm actually gonna tie in 3 points because I wanted to, comment on what River said on the beginning of like how women's emotions are fleeting, and then Higo's point, and then your point, Amir. Like you have to, in a way, distract a woman from herself. Like you really have to give her something to do, or her emotions are going to run wild. So just how Higo was talking about how he has his daughter read to his son, that's a task that gets her busy to try to cultivate her womanhood. And just like in your culture, Amira, in Muslim culture, dudes they get to run wild and free. They get to get their testosterone out, all that energy out, while the girls are in training to be wives. So you have to distract a woman from herself. This might sound controversial. This might
Mhm.
not be as woke as people want it, but this is how it has to be. Because you just leave women to their own devices, they're self-destructive by nature. So you have to distract her from herself. Give her something to do,
yeah.
and give her something that's going to be edifying to her femininity. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yep, and do not spoil your woman. Don't spoil her.
Right.
Just like I said, the fathers with the daughter, don't spoil them, because even in marriages, the man who gives too much, the woman, she might appreciate it in the beginning, but later on, it's just natural female nature to take it for granted and expect more. Go
Yeah.
ahead,
Mhm.
Viva.
Right.
No, I was just going to absolutely agree with that. With not simping for your children, which sounds so funny, but it's true, because especially when they're young and they're growing and their minds are so underdeveloped. Yeah, you need
Mhm.
to be busy. Like, no, you need to find something to do. You need to,
Definitely.
because if not, like if they're left to the demise of their self via TikTok, Instagram, society. I mean, everywhere
Exactly.
you look, I've literally heard this from somebody who I deem so extremely intelligent, and it's gonna sound a little crazy, but it's so honest. They're saying you have to brainwash your kids, right, to the way that you need their mind to be, because if you don't, society is already doing it for you, and that's so true.
Right.
Well, yeah, society will do it for you. That is for certain. But what you really want to do is get your child to think in a way. I guess I understand what you mean, but
Yes.
what we really want to do is get the child to be able to think for himself or herself, not listen to brainwashing of either. You don't listen to
Thinking
my brainwashing nor society's brainwashing.
and thinking
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
thinking for themselves, but in the way that you're directing them to.
I actually
When it
I
comes to
had
certain principles,
mhm.
Yeah, morals. Yeah.
I
morals.
actually had that conversation, and see, like, I think the thing is that mothers get praised for just being there, whereas fathers get almost no praise just for being there.
True.
And the thing is, we have to have a culture of excellence as fathers, because it's easy to just nurture. A home is a home, as long as it's warm and safe, that's fine. And that's what the woman is supposed to create. But the father is supposed to create something much greater. And you have to be okay with not being liked for the first 10 years of their life,
Okay.
or maybe the first 20, because people don't realize, like, damn, my dad, you know what I'm saying, until it's later in life, and then you just like, I understand now. And
You're not there to be liked.
exactly, and this is the number one thing. You have to be
Mhm.
willing to not be liked by your kids, sometimes by your wife,
Yep, even by your
Sometimes,
wife.
your
sometimes.
girlfriends, because if you're always like, then something is wrong with you, and you're going to get just create a culture of acceptance for laziness, and really you're supposed to be the one pushing everybody to be great. So
I
I
really
Right.
appreciate all of these
yeah,
viewpoints because each one is unique. Go ahead, Riva.
I just love that mothers are praised for just being there. And a dad can literally just be there, and then you're gonna be bashed for not doing anything at all.
Right.
So I love that a lot. I love that, and I love seeing, I'm not sure if Definite G has any children, but just hearing the heart of fathers on this platform is just so important, because these are also the people who are changing the society, right? Because fathers being there and willing to be there and being necessary in their children's lives is going to change the effect of what those females that are out there that
Everything.
looking for attention, looking for love, looking for affection and all these things, because the first person to be able to give you and provide you the perfect example of a man is your father. So I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That's why I say, like, in a lot of ways, the father is the first husband for the daughter, because this is how you grow up learning how men should be and how they are. I do want to push back on all of you, however, because this is Ameera. So you all said that fathers, the mother can just be present and everyone is happy. Well, fathers have to perform. I disagree. I do believe that for women, we have the more burden of performance than men. And I'll give you an example why. When you hear, let's say the child is with the mother. When the child is with the mother, that child better be bathed, fed, hair done, well groomed, and learning. While the child is with the father, as the father could sit there and just be yelling at the children are who knows where, and he just yells at them, get in the house or sit down or something. People will say, well, he's present. At least he's present, okay? Don't say anything, because fathers, they're not really burdened with that pressure of performing, of having to have the children in immaculate condition and all this. Because for men, it's almost like, well, he did the best he could. As long as he's there, we're happy with that. The only time that I see that men are criticized is when they do not provide financially. And that bothers me extremely. That bothers me a lot, because men aren't walking ATMs. And we shouldn't say that fatherhood is what's in your wallet, but rather your presence and what you're doing, your connection with your child. That's fatherhood. But what do you all say about that?
I want to touch on this first. So I agree with you to what you're saying. However, in speaking of that, we're talking about the women who don't do those things. When you get the child back and the hair is not combed, they're not fed, there's no structure, there's no nothing. And then you have a man who now is becoming the mother and the father, but it's still if you go to a court system or if you go anywhere, it's looked at as that the mother is the one who has instilled all of these great principles in this child, and she is the one who is taking care of this child, and she is the reason why her children are upstanding citizens, when in actuality the only reason why they're saying that is because she is a woman, even though she really didn't offer all of these things. So I completely understand with what you're saying, in a regular household. But the in my comments, for sure, it was my sentiments on the women who are absolutely, like, literally just providing a roof over your head and expecting you to figure everything else out. And because I'm your mama, I'm the one who's doing the best job, even though that's not the case.
I see.
What I'm gonna, well, I don't have children, but I was raised with my father. So what I'm gonna push back on Ameera on that. Like, you're saying that women have a harder either burden of performance.
I have the delete button, don't you know? I have the delete button.
But I am gonna say, what I'm gonna say is,
oh my god!
Oh, wow. Got him.
That was just a test. Just a test.
Come on, JR or Ameera, one of you. But what I'm gonna say to that, it's actually balanced. What I'm gonna say is actually balanced. If the father is, being the head of the household, because he has to go out and be the foundation of the family. He has to be the one that literally has to sacrifice his life for the family at a moment's notice. So I wouldn't say that if the man and the woman has more of a burden of performance. I'd say if the man is being the man of the household and the woman is being the wife and the mother, woman of the household, the burden is split equal. I wouldn't say that it's like, one's more, doing harder and we should give more accolade to one or the other. No, it's that if the man is there and if the woman is in her role, then the burden is split even. In my opinion,
in a perfect
I'm
world,
the outside looking in, you know.
Right.
in a perfect world, yes. But we're gonna welcome Build With Me. He's gonna be our last caller because I have to go in about 15 minutes. So Build With Me, welcome in. And what do you think about the topic?
First, hello everybody. Hi River. This is what I wanted to say real quick. Yeah, I agree with the topic. The topic's perfectly fine because at the end of the day, it is a man's responsibility to do what he needs to do. And if we didn't do it, then we didn't do it. And I think this is that concept of accountability, which everyone loves to talk about when it comes to men. And men must be accountable. And that's why I disagree when it comes to the whole concept of letting a young man run wild when he's young, because I never saw that in that way. Yes, they were outside playing, but what were they doing when they were playing? Or what did the father do when they took the son away? What happened? And on a side note, people act like women have never worked before. Women have always worked, or if you really think about it. Because you see them in the supermarkets, you see them, like if you go back into Jamaica, you can see people, they're just, they're packing up their food, they're setting up the market, they're selling. Women have always done something, but all of a sudden, there's a change in the mentality towards it where it's either they're supposed to do nothing or they're supposed to take all the burden. So the truth of the matter is, it's somewhere in the middle, and we're just not being fair to one another. That's really what it is.
Well, I feel like it's not in the middle. It's two different dynamics. So you have the burden of performance of nurturing and providing a home, which Ameera is right. You know, if your kids, they outside and they look dirty and their hair is unkept, then you look at the mother. But what happens is as these kids get older and they go into teenage years, now the father seems responsible for their behavior. So like if we see the promiscuous woman, it's like, oh, well, she didn't have a dad. And it definitely, if we see the drug dealing, running around, knocking people out kid, and it's like, oh, he definitely have a father. And then the excuse is, well, a woman couldn't raise a man. So the younger dynamic is to perform for, the mom should perform. But as into adulthood, if your family is not thriving, they're skillless, they, disrespectful, or they're a menace to society, it's always on the father, because we know in society that the mother is not capable of corralling all that type of behavior.
That's a really good point.
That's a great point. And I have a really quick question, just to the men here that we have the ability to speak to. How do you feel about women, such as myself, such as Ameera, such as a lot of other women with different platforms? How do you feel about women rallying for the support of the man and the recognition of the man as well?
The men got to do their own thing, because you guys are great. Social media is great because women tend to get a lot of easy attention. So you guys can almost have a voice quicker than we can, especially if you're beautiful. So being supportive is like 10% part of the work, but men still have to really be men. You have to be willing to be unlike masculine and say, all right, cool, she's with me. Like that support is very feminine, is what we need, especially online. But 90% of the work is a man saying, nah, I'm about to just do this shit, so.
100.
I agree with Higo. I appreciate the support. I mean, like, yeah, good job, yeah. But at the same time, it still falls down onto the men to get it together. It begins and ends with us. We have to be the ones that create the societies that we want our children to live in. We are the ones that's going to be able to actually execute that and be able to keep that structure sound and keep the borders fortified. We're the ones that's going to be able to actually get that done. So yeah, all right, great support. I appreciate it a lot. Keep doing it. Get more women to join in, but at the same time, it still falls on the men's shoulders.
I want to chime in.
Oh, right.
first, I'm gonna go back to that real quick, and I'll answer your question about the dynamics of the family thing. I am a husband, and I'm gonna say that my wife, she does her motherly roles. I say she's more hands-on when it comes to like dealing with the kids. When it comes to like school and things, because I'll see my wife. She's a manager also for the IRS. So what she'll do is she's 6 to 6, and then as soon as she gets off from work, she'll go ahead and do schooling with my son because we don't want him going back to school yet because of the COVID. So
Right.
he does online. So what she'll do is as soon as she gets done with work, right to school. And if there's anything that's like hard for her to deal with, like any questions, she'll come to me, and then I'll take care of it and so forth. If any things when it comes to him getting out of line, so to speak, where he starts to get like hyper a little bit sometimes, then I'll calm him down. But my role as a husband is basically while she's doing that is to basically like take care of the things around the house, cut the grass, and whatever anything that has to deal with our house or that's too heavy, like getting the garbage, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I assume my role. But I agree with Hegel also when they get to a certain age, kids get to a certain age that when they get like in their teen years that they want to test the parents, particularly the mother. And as a father, you have to come in there and you have to bring that balance and you have to calm them down and bring them back down to earth and let them know, like, no, this is what it is. That's your mother, and we ain't gonna try this again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the roles kind of balance itself out, but in the earlier years, it definitely is the mother who's more hands-on with the kids.
Has everyone answered? Because I want to answer Riva's question as well.
Yeah, I just want to
Yeah,
answer
go
that
ahead. Do
question
your
real
thing.
quick. About
Build with me. Did you want to chime in?
Yeah. Okay. So it's not that I'm disagreeing with that because I do agree that mothers have a very important role, and that supporting aspect is very powerful. But there's one aspect of the things that I kind of have to take a small pause because I am Christian, so therefore I do believe that men are leaders, and the burdens of performance is always in that direction, yes, and women serve a role to magnify that to the next degree. That's just how I see it. But ultimately speaking, throughout every step of the process, you should be creating that environment, and that's why finances does become important. But most of us don't understand finance. There's like basic tenets of how to take care of yourself, what you should be doing. We don't really have that, and most men don't really gather together to facilitate young men in that way, or if they do, it gets overrun by somebody else, which is very strange to me. In terms of appreciating women that are in the space, of course, why would I not? But in terms of men, it's incumbent that men do it, because if we are leaders and we're doing what we're supposed to do, ultimately speaking, it's gonna fall in line anyway. Hey, let's see. If you are Christian and you do believe in the Bible, one of the verses in there talks about after the fall of man that a woman's desire will be towards the man. So guess what? We men have a certain sway over women, and women, as far as I'm concerned, they cannot ignore it 100%. You can try, but at the end of the day, there's a certain pull we both have on each other. Man is willing to give up the world for a woman because rather than listening to God, he listened to his wife. And it's not mean to say it's wrong to not listen to your wife. No, it's the fact that he listened to his wife over God. So that's really what it is.
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to ask or tell you, Riva, our part and our position here, I don't think is to influence the men because we cannot influence them. We cannot mold men. We can't tell them what to be or what to do. And that's not our place. I think our place is solely for the women. We have to talk with one another to try to set ourselves straight. And I think with the men being here, it's just enforcement on us. It's basically confirmation of what we are as a society are doing wrong. So
I actually, the reason why I asked that question is because I was intrigued on what the answers would be, because of the fact that that's my exact sentiment, Ameera, is exactly what you said, that I feel like our part is important to let other women be able to fall in line.
Right.
That sounds harsh, but you get what I'm trying to say. To realize that yes, we do have a place, and it's okay to be comfortable in your space, to be able to support the change, so that as men continue to stand up and actually make the changes and become the change that we all want to see, that there's going to be women who are able to coincide with that and be able to be compatible with that man when the change does occur. Because right now we have a whole society again of all these women who don't want to hear nothing. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to see it. You can't tell me I'm good. Birkin bag, like that whole entire society and mindset. So I love the answers, and I definitely agree with you that our point is to be an assistance to our sisters so that they can see that, yeah, it's okay that you don't have to be like that. That's okay. They're not necessarily winning.
So
Yes, try to give them an alternative. Let's try to give the women an alternative to think to the Cardi B's, to all the other women that we see that we don't want our daughters to follow. We should be the alternative. We should give an alternative. As me, Reva, Courtney, Kay sometimes, and Lauren, we have to be the alternative to the rest. And as we're closing out, I wanted you guys to give me your closing arguments. What do you all feel? I wanted everyone to go maybe in order or however you feel best. What do you think? What do you think we can do? And how can we conclude this conversation tonight? What can we do in the meantime to try to halt these things? Or if not that, what do you think should be done on the more macro level?
Okay, so first of all, I've built the channel around how I feel about family structure and all family dynamics. Mom, son, sister, brother, cousins, friends, everything that circles around the family. So, I'm getting that out. So anybody who's listening, go ahead and subscribe. But, according to this conversation, like Built With Me was saying one thing, that the father should create financial stability for the family. And the thing is, everybody's not going to be able to be financially stable. And I do think everybody should feel like they're capable. But I think the main point is that you need to build into the generations of your family. So even if you see that you messed up your life, all right, let's say you got a low paying job, right? And you've messed up. Maybe you got a criminal background and you just can't see yourself getting right. I think fathers have to feed into their child to make them the heroes that they couldn't be. So, for instance, a lot of people in my culture, they'll get a tutor once the kid is doing bad. You get a tutor in order to evolve the kid to new levels. So you get a tutor and shit that he's doing good at, so he excels. That's one. Then number two, we have to stop just getting to the point where we're maintaining the home as fathers, and we have to get to the point where we're pushing our kids to excel, which means we should be looking up all these skills that we see because we know the world better than these kids. We know what's going on. So if we know tech is coming up, we have to put these kids in tech programs and don't care what they say about it. Too many parents are listening to these kids and they just feel like, oh no, well, the kid doesn't want to do it. Well, listen, if the kid didn't want to do everything, the kid would know nothing. So you have to put them in these programs, at least make them do one, I don't know, semester, season, or year of something. And then if they don't like it, move on to the next. So we have to start giving these kids skills, not just having them in the house and making them exist. They got to sweat.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. There you go.
Yeah, I'm done. So that
people are asking what your channel name is because people want to follow you.
He goes away just like you see on the tag. Just search it, and it's there. So it's new. I'm throwing videos up every day. It's getting better, and follow me and just watch the journey.
Thank you so much. Ray?
Yeah, I agree with a lot what Higo said. I think everybody should know their place, know their roles, know the dynamics, and assume your roles. And as men, like you said, everybody is not going to be able to take care of the household because so many dynamics has changed. I know my wife. At one point she was bringing in more money than I was, but now I'm bringing in more money, so now I can take care of a household. So, but even if you don't, even if you're not assuming that role to where you're taking care of the household, my wife still knew her role. She knew her role as a wife, and she still allowed me to be. She respected me as her head. So that also plays a dynamic because your kids pay attention to that. And my son, being that he sees that, he's seeing everything that I do. He does everything that I do, whether and that's why I try to do everything set a positive role for him, because if I don't, whatever I do, he's going to take it out into the world. And I try to shape him also, like Hegel said, you gotta no matter if they don't like it or not, you gotta show them the skills that it takes to succeed in this world, like some type of trade or something. When I'm out there cutting wood, I take him out there and show him how to do it. Some type of workshop, I show him how to do it. So he has that skill. So when he gets older, it's already inculcated in him. So how you teach your kids today, they're going to take it into the world, whether you think they don't or not. Kids are paying attention.
They do what you do, not what you say, and that's what I think a lot of us have to remember. What about you, Build With Me?
I agree with all the sentiments. Because when I mention the financial part, it's just basic things of life. And I think, no offense, fathers are very good to let you know, like, yo, this is what it is. You can't pretend this is not what it is. And if you're not going to confront it, you're going to be broken by it. That kind of mentality is necessary, because if you don't understand life, how do you move? I'm not going to go too deep, but there was actually one other topic I wanted to talk about, but I'll do that another time. But one thing I think that we have to get used to and comfortable with in general, I think most people are just too afraid to fail, and it's necessary that we fail. Yeah.
Many times.
And this goes for men, women, everybody. We're too afraid to fail. And for men, I think not failing is actually part of the reason why we don't really know how to adjust when things happen. Because I believe in two tenets right now. For everybody, whether you're Christian or not, you should have integrity, and you need to know how to adapt, because this world keeps changing.
Thank you, Build With Me. I appreciate that. What about you, Definitely?
Well, the change is not going to come from the outside in. It's going to have to come from the inside out. So what we need to do is we need our masculine identity back. Boys are going through an identity crisis of what it is to be a man, what it is to thrive in this world, and how are they supposed to move on this earth. So what we need to do is bring back and understand what masculinity is and what manhood is. Once we do that, we have to put value on top of that. So we have to want people to want that identity, at least want men to want that type of identity. Once we have a lot more men growing, and then we have men understanding what it really means to be a man, instead of like, oh, a man is just a man who makes six figures, or a man is just a man who has this great job or this business. No, there's more to it. He's a teacher. I can go on for hours, but we don't have that much time. So we need to understand what is a man first. How is he supposed to move? And then grow that young boy into that identity, and then have that child, teach other people and keep growing from there. When more men understand what manhood is, then we'll have that big change, and people on the outside will have to notice us. So.
You're right. There is a very skewed vision of manhood right now, because manhood is seen as something so toxic. And I talk about that constantly, that a lot of boys are growing up and they're being taught that everything that is masculine is toxic and wrong. So a lot of boys are growing up, especially boys that are growing up in single parent household, they don't know what a man is. And a lot of them think, well, being a man is being aggressive and controlling. And because they're taught, oh, well, this is toxic, they don't know where to begin. And I think you're right in a lot of ways, where a lot of us and a lot of women don't know what femininity is anymore, because we're taught that femininity is soft and it's weak, and you can't do anything when you're a feminine woman, and nobody wants a weak person around. You need to learn how to be independent and grow. So we have completely lost our foundations of what what female and male are. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we're facing. Last but not least, Riva.
Well, I agree with everyone's sentiments. Again, I think that it's so important that we are the change that we want to see, right? Michael Jackson said it in the song, and we make jokes about the song all the time, but it literally starts with the person in the mirror. And again, starting in your home, starting with your children, because your children is the reason why people like us are sitting here congregating, is because we fear for their future, right? We want them to be able to have happy homes and happy relationships. Because outside, I say it all the time on my channel, on River TV, that outside is hard enough. Life is hard enough. You want to be able to have good family structures and good support. And again, it's going to take a lot of women, a lot of men declining the beautiful women that you see, and entertaining people. If you really, really are sure that you want to change and you want to see more feminine women, and you want more, a woman that can be cooperative with you, and if you really want a wife, right, within your community or however, then you have to make certain changes that are going to be able to be effective to support your narrative. All of these men here have said that they believe that it's going to take men to stand up and be strong and change that. And obviously, as we're talking to you here, you guys are bold enough to come on and show your face and state your opinions so strong and be able to tell us how you feel about things. So ultimately, it starts with yourself. And as well as in the comments, a lot of people got things wrong based off of what I was saying about my spirituality or my beliefs, and we're gonna have to rectify that. But
we'll address it.
I just want to make that known that everybody was completely wrong. I saw some words that I've never even seen before of what they're trying to class me as. You guys are wrong.
Don't worry about it. We'll address it later.
We'll address it later. But more than something that Build With Me actually said about that is that it's even more about whatever belief systems that you have. There's just a way that things are supposed to be done, no matter where you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what you believe in. There's a structure that's necessary, right? The man is supposed to be the leader, and it's going to take men to step up to be able to be the leader, right? But as well as it takes feminine women to be able to hear the sound, to be cooperative, to be more soft, to be able to be somebody that somebody can lead. Because every time somebody says something to you, you have to be like, oh no, you can't tell me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a change in the dynamics that are so necessary. And I think that can change the hell that's been created.
Thank you for bringing that full circle. I love how you ended it with that. Thank you so much. I want to thank all of you all for being here. And I thank these 4 men here. Thank you for joining me and speaking your truth and speaking the reality of what we're facing without any censor. Thank you for not censoring yourselves. And I always appreciate fathers that are fighting and are willing to go against it all. I mean, Ego, I never knew your story, and I never knew you went against a court system like that. You are the 14%. You have defeated the odds. That's amazing. And that makes me respect you even more than I already did. I already saw you as a very logical man, but wow, now I know it's more than that. Thank you, Ray, and thank you, Build With Me and Definite G, for your honesty and logic. And thank you for not being too biased. I appreciate that so much, guys. So with that, I want to say thank you to the 4 gentlemen. Riva, I need to have a quick closeout with you. Thank you, guys.
All right. Peace. Later, guys.
All right.
All right.